Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who is passionate about the intersection of sports and business, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, my name is Sean Callanan. Welcome to episode 318. On this week's episode, I chat with Dan LaTorraca from the Carolina Hurricanes. Thank you very much for joining me. You might be listening to this in your favourite podcast app. You might be doing it in mine. I'm still a massive fan of Pocket Casts. But if you're listening on Apple or on Google or on Spotify, I really do appreciate it. I know there's a lot of podcasting options out there. I really do appreciate you taking the time. If you could leave a review, I'd really appreciate it. We're at over 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you go to sportsgeekhq.com/Apple Podcast, you can find it, or you can just find it in the podcast player. As always, you can contact me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com if you've got a question, or you can send me a tweet, retweet, and the like at Sean Callanan on most platforms, at Sean Callanan on LinkedIn. Funnily enough, that's where I am. Before I get into my chat with Dan, just want to say I really enjoy getting back in the swing of podcasting. A shout out to my producer, Jane, who's helping booking guests. But we need more guests to book in. So if you've got a colleague that's doing some amazing things across sports, marketing, digital, technology, data, analytics, or if you think your CEO is doing a remarkable job, send me an email, nominate them, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. I love talking to smart people and people doing cool stuff. So that's pretty much the brief. Let me know someone that's working either at a sports team, working with a grassroots sport, working in a league, working potentially at a stadium. So all of those, they're the people I want to talk to. The other thing is I'm also developing some new keynotes for 2024, adapting the digital to dollars framework and some of the keynotes that can come out of that, but also playing around with some speaking formats and different workshops. So I've decided to head back to improv class. I did improv class many years ago to sort of work on spontaneity and a character and building a narrative, and it was a really good skill set to have as a speaker. I'm one that I like to roll with the punches as a speaker, and then it enabled me to be able to write a keynote at Seat Miami when I completely lost my voice, which is not what you want as a conference speaker, as a keynote speaker, as a podcaster. So if I did not have those improv skills, then I would not have been able to build that keynote welcoming address when I didn't speak. It was just me writing a complicated and hopefully funny deck to support Christine as my co-presenter, even though I did not speak a word. I'll put a link if you haven't heard that story before and haven't seen the slides. I'll put the link there from Seat in Miami. Fun times. I don't suggest you go to one of my speaking formats won't be mime, but I'm playing around with more interactive formats to sort of get everyone up and about, because I really do like it. So if you're looking for a speaker, an MC, or you want a workshop run, reach out. I'd love to do it. But now let's get stuck in to this podcast, episode 318. You can find it at sportsgeekhq.com/318. Here's my chat with Dan LaTorraca from the Carolina Hurricanes. Very happy to welcome Dan LaTorraca. He is the VP of Marketing and Brand Strategy at the Carolina Hurricanes. Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it. I want to first get started, like I always do, is sort of find out how you got your start into sports, and then we can sort of weave our way to find out where you are now at the Hurricanes. So how did you find your way into the world of sports?
Yeah, I actually went to college to be a high school English teacher, and kind of just woke up one day my sophomore year of school, and I didn't want my entire life to be in classrooms. I do teach now a little bit on the side, but around that same time where I was going to college, the New York Yankees had moved their AAA farm team from Columbus, Ohio to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I was in school. And I looked at that as a sign that I wanted to try my hand in specifically sports journalism. So
Yep.
I worked real hard at that. I worked for the city paper, the school paper, a magazine that was owned by Fox Sports at the time. Started a blog, and that was big back in like 2005, 2006.
Yep.
And did that for a couple of years. And once I graduated, I learned just how hard it was to find a job in sports media in the New York market. So I ended up landing in advertising and digital marketing specifically. And the dream of wanting to work in sports never really faded. So I worked in advertising for a couple of years with
so you're in that
different agencies.
Digital media and early planning and early digital ads and in that sort of space.
And this was 2009, yeah.
Yeah.
This is 2009, 2010, and when brands were just starting to use social and digital more, it was kind of a new dawn for a lot of things, and I enjoyed it. Being raised in that kind of generation, it was fun to learn about, and I did some consulting on the side for some sports teams. Figured why not undercut some competition and learn how they operate. And after about a year of doing that, I got a job offer from the Carolina Panthers. So my wife and I moved down to Charlotte and from Jersey, which was a huge culture shock. And then the past decade plus, I've been working for sports teams, building up their digital platforms or their brand and advertising platforms.
So you've been fortunate to go to multiple different pro sports leagues. Stay with the Panthers, the NFL, and then some time in Brooklyn with the Nets and the Islanders, and then back to the Hurricanes. What were some of your takeaways in looking at how the different pro leagues tackle digital in that emerging era, because that was like 2011 to present day? How are those three leagues different?
Sean, it's changed a lot over the past decade. I'm sure you know better than most. When I first started with the Panthers, sports teams were just sort of employing social media personnel. And back then it was like, all right, do you have a communications or a journalism degree? And okay, you're in charge of the Twitter now, or is it some intern that's doing it? And to see where things were then compared to where they are now, where a lot of sports teams and brands have multiple social media professionals and content producers dedicated to maintaining and growing these platforms, it's pretty astounding. But as far as the differences, that'll change from organization to organization. One of the biggest things I've learned from starting in the NFL was just the cadence of content. In the NFL, everything is so regimented in, Sunday's your game in most cases. And then Monday is sort of the reflection on the game and the press conferences, and Tuesday's an off day. Wednesday, you're turning the page and your practices and all your content is pointed towards that next opponent. And it's very, you start from in August and with training camp, and you end in December or January with the final game of the season. And it's sort of like rinse and repeat, and different storylines emerge based on like player performance or things like that. But, in the NBA and the NHL, it's the cadence is just way different. And you have to not only plan your content differently and more proactively and more further out, but you also have to know when to turn the page and when to put your foot on the gas, when to take it off. And, because of that, I find that the NHL and the NBA, it's not that they don't take losses seriously, but there's a lot more games. And it's a lot easier. You lose 2 in a row. It's not the end of the world in the NBA or the NHL. And the NFL can be, pretty rough, and the fans can be pretty upset. So how fans handle and digest wins and losses is dramatically different too, which just changes how you message. So those are the big changes. Other ones change from organization to organization, but it's all about the cadence of the storytelling, really.
And then when you came back to the Hurricanes, what brought you back to Carolina? What brought you to the Hurricanes in 2018?
Yeah. So, I loved my time in Charlotte, and my wife and I, we just fell in love with the region, the people, the warmth, the culture, everything. We just were special about it. But we were from the Northeast, from the New Jersey area, and we were having our first kid. We wanted to be closer to family up in Brooklyn, and I grew up a Nets fan and all that. So it was a really easy decision where I could grow as a professional while enjoying the birth of our first child closer to home and both of our families. And after a while, we loved living in Brooklyn. It was so much fun, but we realized that we always wanted to raise our family in the Carolinas. So when an opportunity emerged with the Canes, we started talking, and it's definitely where I wanted to be. And there's not a lot of pro teams in the Carolinas, so you got to take those opportunities when they arise. Yep. And ended up being the best decision I ever could have made in my career, because I got there at a really good time when the organization was on an upswing, and I was able to really capitalize on some good things happening on and off the ice and fold that into our brand.
And so what I'm always fascinated with, the different people I chat to, the different titles and what they mean in different organizations. Yeah. And you came into the Hurricanes as, director of digital marketing. So what was under that remit of digital marketing? Because some people will say, oh, were you running campaigns and ticket sales, or were you part of the content team? Like it's different for different people. What was, that was the title. What was the role?
Yeah, that's a great question, and also a good mention, because one of the things that I talked about with our now CMO Mike Foreman at the time was I can come down there and I feel pretty confident that I can transform your digital platform, and I can make that something that really hum. But if I do well there, I really want to jump over into more traditional marketing, because I've sort of been doing digital for 9+ years now, or whatever. How long it's been. I want to expand and grow. And one great thing about the Hurricanes is that they have allowed myself and a lot of other people on our staff to grow if it's earned. So my role out of the gate was really to take their social presence and apply and build out a strategy that really helped them tackle being in a challenging market. I mean, it's hockey in the Southeast in a market that is more college sports than pro teams. But we got that their social presence in a good spot, but it was also email, web, anything and everything that's on a digital screen, and all the integrations and revenue opportunities that come with it. So paid media is in there too, and sponsorship integration, and how we push retail. Every sports league, as you know, has different ways that they're allowed to handle e-commerce on the retail side. And that was a big piece of it too. Right before I got there, the NHL had signed their deal with Fanatics, and there were certain elements of that deal that allowed clubs to have their own e-commerce, retail site. And that's something the Kings have invested a whole lot in recent years. So that was the first year in the job, and fortunately the team broke their 10-year playoff drought and had some really special things happen on the ice, and we were really in position to capitalize on the social side. Just put up dominating numbers, and we haven't really let up in a couple of years now.
So it was that set that foundation from a digital point of view, and then look at, because that was one going to be my further questions, your role now, VP of marketing and brand strategy. There's no digital in the title, so you've got that wider remit, but you're still overseeing, and digital is still a big part of it because it is everywhere now.
Absolutely. It's a big part of the Hurricanes brand and organization, and it's a big part of our marketing arm. So that is a big part of my responsibility still. We have a really great digital team, and great leadership there, as well as some staffers that do a really good job on the social and the email and the editorial side. We just brought along a young man that joined us from the theater side of things here in Durham to join and lead up our advertising campaigns. And we're in the process of adding a website manager and some mobile app people as well. So digital is always part of it. It's a tremendous platform for fan engagement and revenue for us. But the other things that constitute sort of my role is our creative services team and our retail team. On the creative services side, that's something we've undergone a lot of transformation in, and we're in the process of transforming. So that's your photo, your video, your graphic design, your project management, which is probably the most important part of all of that outside of the creativity of it. All those motion graphics, all of that, and sort of having a consistent approach, look, feel, philosophy with all that, getting everyone on the same page. And then retail, of course, is pretty self-explanatory with the products that we hold in our store, we sell online, the e-commerce piece of it, as well as sort of the brick and mortar piece, because retail has been a really big part of our brand identity too. We've been able to really engage our audience through merchandise, and that's an important part of our brand too.
A really interesting part of that is sort of pulling all those pieces together. Has there been a part of process improvement, bringing in certain tools that can help get all those different, creative services, get all those different departments working together? I mean, they have been working together, but also make the tools to make it easier. You've got video people that are, working with massive files. How do they get it to the social folk that need it in all these different sizes? Have you sort of started wrangling that sort of workflow? And is there certain tools that are helping you in doing that?
We're diving into that right now as we speak, which is never ideal when you're a couple months into the season. But we've got some really good people that are, working through some of those unique circumstances. And there's the reliable platforms, the Dropboxes, the Slacks, the Asanas that really service us very well. Things that we had to get used to during the pandemic when we were all separate. We employed a lot of those softwares to help us. The photo shelters of the world too. Those are the important ones for, I guess you could say, productivity and communication and process. But then you have your other ones like the Zooms out there that help us better understand how much value we're driving with our social platforms, or WSC, one of my really personal favorites that's helps us cut video even more efficiently during games. And there's a couple new ones in the mix too that I really, really like. Three actually come to mind is Wit Sports is something that's helped us really transform a lot of our lead gen and fan engagement opportunities.
Okay.
They've done some really cool stuff for us. And then Slate Teams, which I'm sure one you've heard about a little bit, that allows us to sort of really fancy up our Instagram stories and our content around social, and sort of take some pressure off our graphic design team a little bit too. And then we just moved over to...
helps with that fast content stuff that you just need, quick turnaround.
Exactly. And our team's gotten real good with it. And then a real new one for us too is a subsidiary of Teamworks, Influencer, which is our player social platform, the tool that helps empower our players to get more active on social. So, we have a lot of different tools in our toolbox, and the most important thing is people, and the people that understand how to use them. But we've looked through some of the good and the bad, and I feel pretty good about our toolbox right now.
Because it is a little bit of, here's the list of all the tools that we use. And you said you're in a bit of a hiring spree and trying to skill up your team to be able to do this. What do you look for?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that, like you said earlier, it's hard to get into sports. What are you looking for? Because, you see some of those job descriptions where it says, you've got to be able to do this and this and this and this. And you're always looking for these multi-skilled people that are adaptable, can do multiple things. But then also it comes down to being able to learn and pick up a new tool or offer a new and a more efficient way of doing something. What do you look for in the people that you're trying to hire in different roles?
Yeah, it's a great question. Culture fit is always number one. Obviously we want to find the most talented people possible in terms of like the nature of the job, whether they're a motion graphic designer or a video producer or a writer. But we take the culture fit thing really, really seriously, which means like a gauntlet of interviews with all the people that we'll be interacting with on our team, and sometimes externally as well too. So that's number one. And we look at everything with that, from how they answer the phone to things they enjoy doing in their free time. We don't do as much social media stalking, maybe as some other teams do, but that's number one. I try to find people that are very proactive. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of your guests about how time is like our most valuable resource in sports. And, the people that can respect that fact that like, if you can create more time with proactive planning, it takes you from good to great. So people that understand that fact and they're collaborative and have a good attitude. Obviously that's what everyone looks for too, but we've gotten to develop a pretty good nose for those types of people. But we have a whole brand chart of what our marketing department principles are. And, there's a bunch of things on there. But proactive and respectful, and proactive is a big one for me. You'll probably hear me repeat that a lot, because I find that the people that are willing to raise their hand and bring something to life, or the ones that can ideate and also bring something to life, or can get ahead of stuff, those are the ones that truly find success in the industry.
Definitely. I mean, it's not something you can be handed to. You're never going to get a perfect brief. Please design this. Here's something really loose. Come back to me and impress me. And that proactivity of either from the brief or even just unrelated, coming to you and going, we think we might do this. How does this? Is there a process for you and your team to have those brainstorming sessions where those nuggets come out from the room?
Yeah, we used to be pretty religious about our the cadence of our creative brainstorming meetings, and now that we're kind of rebuilding that staff, we're hoping to get that back to be a regular thing. And I think it's really important to have those. You don't want to have like too many meetings, because too many meetings, it's like that shows like a lack of trust, and also it's gonna be a waste of time. But I think it's important to set up those environments where you can sort of guide the brainstorming in a way, like maybe give some certain topics we're shooting for and we're talking about, or we can enhance, or it gives us something to kind of focus on. but it's important to have those things. And everyone on our staff, very few of them are from Raleigh. I mean, a handful of them are, but a lot of people are from Philadelphia or Texas or Florida or California, wherever. And they all follow different sports teams and different, B2C brands. They have a different perspective. They have a different perspective on our brand too, and what we mean here, whether you're from Raleigh or you're not. So I like to really hear where they're coming from, what they observe, and some ideas we can do through the lens of like, what are our brand values? And those are, for the Hurricane's sake, it's bold, regional, and fun. And, regional is the one that I think has become the most important over the years, because we really want to weave ourselves into the fabric of North Carolina culture. And just because you're not from here doesn't mean you can't have a good idea. And that's something that we're trying to encourage more. But these brainstorming sessions are good, and the appropriate Slack channels for it too. We're always sort of scouting out other teams or other brands or trading ideas, or just most of our ideas are pretty stupid and foolish, but we'll still trade some good ones. And the ones that come to life we're usually proud of, and sometimes they start with a dumb joke and then it comes to life. We've had a lot like that.
Yep. I did want to ask you the term fan engagement. It's different for different people. Yeah. I just asked ChatGPT now to tell me what fan engagement is, because it keeps changing. What's it for you and for the Canes?
Yeah, it's a pretty broad term nowadays. Kind of like what big data was like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's for the way I define it. Really, is any platform or effort you do towards any that you put thought behind in order to interact with or build a relationship with fan. And that can be with the purpose of transactions. That can be the purpose of not expecting anything in return. That can be through digital. That can be through your inside sales staff on those one-to-one conversations. That can be through experiences or the game itself. There's different layers of it depending on the platform that's used, but it should be something that every organization is thinking hard about, because without the fans and without an engaged fan base, apathetic fans don't really, do anything for you. They don't spend, They don't care. It's the opposite way you want. You have to keep any relationship engaged. So, for us on the marketing side, it's obviously very different for those on the ticketing side or the partnership side, or anywhere else. But it is something that's a pretty broad term, and it probably is abused a little bit nowadays too.
And what I wanted to dive in on is some of the stuff that you guys have done from a Twitter point of view, and playing in that banter and edge and meme, and really leaning into that regional and really for your fans. There's a lot of people that do it, and it's like, why are they doing it? It's like, well, they're your fans love it. You're doing it for your fans. How did that evolve, and that getting that tone right? Like, was that something when you came in to go, I want to, because it's pretty well not like a lot of the NHL teams have done it. Famously spoke to Dwayne Hankins many years ago with the Kings tweet.
Legend.
But was it something that evolved? Was it something you wanted to like have some edge, or have that have some of that one-on-one? Because a lot of it happens in the replies and then it blows up. How did it start? What was the I guess origin of it for you guys?
Yeah, I remember talking to our CMO, Mike Foreman, about this, even in a job interview. And I had him open the team's Twitter account, and I asked him to keep scrolling and let me know when he found a response to a fan. And I said, that's the first thing we have to change is, we have a new head coach. We have a new owner. We have the second overall pick in the draft. We have a new uniform coming out. We have a team that's being invested in a different way. We need to start responding and engaging and building these relationships with fans. And that's something that I not pioneered. It's not like I invented answering people, but it was a strategy that we did a lot with the Panthers and found a lot of success. We weren't going to compete with the Dallas Cowboys or the Giants or the Jets or those teams with a lot of history, being then an NFL team that only had 18 or 19 years of existence. But what we could do is we could engage and respond and build relationships much more efficiently. And we're not going to have the budget, but we're going to have the impact. And that eventually helped us better understand the language they use, which then allowed us to kind of communicate differently and do those things, those roasts and those dunking on or showing more humor or a human side. And that was the playbook was written by the time I got to the Hurricanes. So, that was the first thing was let's start responding and understanding the language our fans use, what matters to them, and really showing this is a living, breathing entity. This is not us talking this is us talking with. Yep. And over time, the plan was never to be full of snark, but I'll be honest, the the leash that we have at the Hurricanes is longer and more understanding than any other organization I've worked with. And that's not an indictment on anywhere else I've been. It's just the organization and the ownership. Tom Dundon and Don Waddell are just superb leaders, and they understand the value that this can bring in being engaging, and also the challenges that we have in being a hockey team that has only been in North Carolina for 25 years. And hockey's a tough sport in the Southeast. It's still an emerging and untraditional market. So, that was something that the Snark eventually developed in conjunction with the Storm Surge, which was these, I'm sure you've talked to plenty of people in baseball. A bat flip can kind of draw the ire of some older, more conservative baseball analysts. Well, showing any kind of excitement in hockey was like a cardinal sin. And our guys were taking that to the max by, after wins at home, like skating around the ice, crashing into it, bringing Evander Holyfield out and having him knock out a player or dunking on a basketball, whatever. And that's something that, allowed for us to really have a lot of fun, because every fan base came after us, and it was so easy to roast them. It became like, are you pro fun or anti fun? And social's mostly fun. And so that allowed us to really cultivate a voice, which we were then able to kind of evolve over through pandemics and through other fun times. And fortunately, the team has been winning, and that has allowed us to really, create something that's sort of unique. We think we're a little bit different than some of the other teams in hockey that have done a fantastic job, like Vegas and the Kings, as you mentioned before, and there's a handful of others that have done a really, really fine job over the years. But we try to maintain some sort of brand vision with our responses, and keep it with consistent with what our fans care about. Because ultimately, like, while we care about the growth of the sport, we care about our fans more than anything else. So if we irritate or bother other fans of other teams, it's more engagements for us, but it's also that's not our target audience either.
Yeah. I mean, and I read in an athletic article about the art of the second punch. It's not like you're out there going and picking fights and being David and Goliath and throwing rocks at bigger teams. You're just taking the offers in an impro type of setting, yes-anding whatever comes your way. Is that pretty much just from a process point of view? And that is it the person that's on the tools that's doing it? Is it something that gets thrown into Slack? Because there is this pressure when someone is running it. It's like, I've got to come back with something. Is there a process for your team? Is it one talented person that's replying all the time, or is it a team effort that's sort of a hive mind that works for the Canes?
Yeah, it's very much a team effort. I mean, we've got a great crew on the social team of Matt Suter and Mackenzie Friedman and others, but we've had great ideas come from all over the marketing department. And ultimately, Matt and myself serve as that like triage and decision maker over times of like, all right, well, this one makes sense, this one doesn't. And because you ultimately need a trigger person or someone who is able to differentiate, like, all right, this will resonate, maybe this won't, but it's incredibly collaborative. And it's one thing I really admire about sort of the culture we've built, is that everyone has a voice, and some people have some really good ideas, and we want to make sure that we give everyone that opportunity to be involved in that way. We want to celebrate it. It's not about credit for one individual. We really want to do the best job possible. And that's, something I'll get to probably a little later in the philosophy of our organization in a non-traditional market. But no, it's very collaborative. There are times, when we just are in Slack, whether it's a late game, early game, whatever, or just whatever, where we're sharing ideas and they kind of evolve through conversation. And I find that's pretty effective. Whereas you mentioned David and Goliath though, too. I think, so our philosophy shifted a little bit over the years. Just, hockey is unique. We definitely, some may perceive it as being the aggressor. We kind of perceive it as biding our time and waiting for the right time to strike, even if it is a response strike. And that could be months away. But it's the kind of thing where we don't forget, So sometimes if we don't have the answer immediately, we might, when the time is right. Whereas with the Panthers, the philosophy was very much just, throw the last punch kind of thing and wait till you've won and wait till the situation is perfect. And usually it's a little closer up to it after the team has performed well or whatever it may be. So again, every situation is different based on the circumstances or who you're interacting with. But we've had a lot of fun with it, and it's helped us really continue to evolve this brand over the years.
Yeah. I mean, I find sometimes working with teams, like even just the caption contest internally, like the person who's doing the post just go, oh, it's Thursday afternoon, I'm fried, and you just put it up and slap, and they go, come back with your best caption, and just let the whole team come in, and eventually, go, oh, that's this one's got the most likes, or this one's got the chuckle, it works, and it really does build that collaborative nature for the team, and then also someone saying, hey, what about this? It's
so ones
good
that can make it with all the profanity. Those are the fun ones, which I wish we could release. But Lord, if that ever got subpoenaed, we'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, Kane's After Dark, potentially another Twitter handle of some sort. The other one that I want to say, Twitter in an Elon world. Have you got thoughts on where it may go? Some of the changes that might come.
Yeah, day by day, just kind of keeping an eye on it. I enjoy the platform, as a consumer, as someone who follows sports news or business news. So, there's the individual in me, and then there's also the marketer in me. We've never leaned on Twitter as an organization to drive direct paid media revenue. It has driven lots of revenue for us through sponsorship activation or through Twitter's Amplify platform. But, so it's really been an engagement tool and a branding tool for us. And obviously, if the users are leaving the platform, which doesn't seem to be the case quite yet, that would be something we'd evaluate. But, we've had talks about it, and I don't... My opinion has changed basically every week on it. The first week I was like, this is going to start breaking down, and then advertisers are going to bail, and then then we'll see what happens. And now it's survived a good month now, and while I don't agree with every change or tweet that's made, the platform exists, and a lot of our fans are on there. So, we owe it to ourselves, our brand, and our job to continue doing our best to do it. And it's a platform that's viable for us right now. So, we're going to keep an eye on everything, and I don't think things will change too dramatically in the short term, but, we're always ready to pivot, just like anybody else in sports, just like when Google Plus came around, or when everyone migrated from Dig to Reddit back in like 2010. We're ready for the change, and we've talked about it. And our plan is really to invest. And we're going to do this anyway, but invest more in the platforms that require some more attention. The TikToks and the Instagram stories, YouTube. We don't have a YouTube channel, And I'm a firm believer, if you can't do something right, maybe you shouldn't do it, And we're just not in the place where we are from a resources and process standpoint to succeed in that platform. Maybe that's the thing we invest in, or we look at LinkedIn, or more importantly, the owned platforms, the things people can't take away from you, like the emails and web and a mobile app. You're going to see a lot more NHL teams with mobile apps in the next 12 months. So that's and us included.
I think that has been a snapback, at least in the last couple of years, as Zuckerberg sort of strangled the reach. On Facebook, and it's happening on Instagram and Twitter. Other than engagement, it doesn't drive traffic, and so there has been that pushback to what does our own email look like? What does our own app look like? What does our destination look like? I think we'll see more of that, because it's not like those early days of, it's a new year, it's a new platform, we've got to try this platform. Like all the other than TikTok, it's the only one that's still in growth phase, where go and acquire, knowing that the squeeze, the reach will all come back eventually. But we're in acquiring phase right now. But there has been definite pushback on CRM and owning your customer, and starting to get that one-on-one conversation.
It's an important reset. This is what we should have been doing for a couple of years now anyway. So look, a lot of people, and I love Twitter, and I say this with respect, but it maybe it made us all a little lazy. It's such an easy platform that aligns well with sports. It's easy engagement. It's a great one-to-one communication tool that we sort of put a couple too many eggs in that basket. And it's right now, at the moment we're recording this, a very viable tool for most brands in the sports landscape. It's really important for us to examine that real estate that we own, and websites, app, email, CRM, all that, very, very valuable, and you can't go unattended to.
It does lead into a good spot. You sort of talked a little bit before about using products like Zoom to measure. Like looking at, from a digital but an overall marketing point of view, you're, creating reports or trying to measure what success looks like. Is there particular metrics that you're looking at or reporting on that are key to you for your team to say, hey, this is what we're chasing, and what might some of those be?
Yeah, it depends on the platform always.
Yep.
For our paid media campaigns, it's always going to be ROI, and what we measure is we against ourselves the previous year.
Yep.
Obviously, that got a little tough with the pandemic season, the shortened
Yep.
season, and things being a little weird and chaotic. But ultimately, we just want to keep doing a little bit better each year because we're in a different kind of market, and we want to make sure that just we're spending effectively, and we're
Yep.
either that's so the ROI is part of it. We want to make sure we're generating a lot of leads. Our inside sales staff, our ticketing department has done tremendous work. When I first got to the Canes like 5 years ago, I think we had like 5,000 season ticket members. I think we're close to like 15 right now. It's a ridiculous increase over the years. And, that's an everyone effort, especially the ticketing team closing those deals. But whether we're bringing in leads or we're helping drive brand awareness, whatever it may be, the number of leads that we bring in is very important. And that's something that's going to continue to be a big focus for us, that, looking for more ways to do it and more qualified leads that we can funnel to our BI team in order to make sure that whether it's email marketing, whether it's people that are going to convert on e-commerce, we want to make sure that like that number continues going up. But paid media, it's ROI. On the social side, it's interaction rate or interaction per post. That we're never going to win the total interactions battle. We have plenty of times, but the metric we really care about is that our content on a one-for-one, pound for pound is interacting at the highest rate possible compared to any other NHL team. And that's something that, we take a quality over quantity approach there. So our average number of posts per day is probably much lower than every other NHL team right now. That's also a resource thing too, which is, we are addressing with the creative services team. But that's something we look at on the social side. But a lot of KPIs, you just got to find ways to measure yourself against yourself. That's your best competitor right there. So we look at the ones that we've established for a couple of years, and it always comes down to how much money are we making? Are we making, is the ROI positive? Is the interaction rate continuing to grow? And is there a reason why we're doing better or worse? And usually you can look at that from a month to month or a week to week breakdown based on team performance or a million other things. But those are the kind of the ones we look at a very, very high level.
As you do build out your team, is there a particular content format or a content type that is emerging, or is one that you really want to dive into?
We're right now in the market of trying to get better in a lot of different places. I've always been of the philosophy that you want to identify your strengths and make them stronger. With the Nets, we had just an outstanding design team. They're graphic designers. I mean, most of them are still over there, so you can look at their stuff right now. And then Jesse Kavana is like one of the best ever. So we leaned in heavy on that, and they have since gotten really good with video and a number of other things. But I always used to just love their design, And with the Canes right now, we've had very good design. We're getting better with video, but we're hiring so many different people that it's a chance to really sort of reassess what those strengths are going to be and where are we going to plug them in. So, for a lot of teams, I do think they're finding it's tough to add really good creative talent because a lot of really good creative talent can do well as a freelancer right now. But the in-house crew that we've added, I'm really excited about photography for us because I think a lot of teams, especially on the hockey side, haven't invested enough in good photography. And look, hockey is probably the hardest sport to shoot in the U.S. Like in football and in soccer, you have a lot of sideline run around. In baseball, I love baseball; it's my favorite sport. But like the pace of that makes it very easy to photograph. Hockey, you got like 4 holes, and you got to be the right place, the right time, and the right side of the ice, and your camera's got to be ready. So we were really excited about one of the photographers we brought in, and that's going to help us a lot too, because I think there's a lot of good photography can impact your design, your video, your advertising, everything. So I'm very excited about that. And I expect to see more teams follow suit. I think hockey does need to look at how the NFL has invested in content over the past couple of years and follow suit, because I think the fans are underserved there in terms of really creative, compelling, engaging content, not just cinematic stuff, but in how they approach it, with the whole kind of digital ecosystem. And I think that's something that we're going to see a lot of teams just re-examine what works and what doesn't, and how they're serving it to their fans.
We're recording this in mid-December. We've just had this wave of, I mentioned it before, ChatGPT, and then Lens. Everyone's posting their Lens, AI images. Where do you see some of this infiltrating sport more than it already is? I mean, we're already seeing it with, WSC and the ability to tap a button, type a few things and get a highlight. But do you see, effectively like leveling up that photo game or creating that motion graphic from that shot? Do you think that's something that in the next 12 to 18 months we're going to start seeing flow through the world of sports?
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. One, it's, and you've seen this for years probably, sports is such a copycat league, especially in the digital landscape. So all it takes is a handful of teams or agencies or athletes to do it, and then everyone else kind of follows suit. So that's one way it travels. The other way, too, is that a lot of sports organizations have creative teams and content teams that are understaffed. And this is a way to sort of bridge some of those gaps and do something compelling and fit in with a narrative without having to lift that many fingers. So I do think we'll see teams experiment with it. I think it's going to open up some hot debates about, well, you should be paying your designers, which is all true as well. But I do think you're going to see teams use it. And I think it's going to be an interesting time, but also it's going to hopefully breed some innovation and additional creativity. But there's... Well,
it's going to be a balance because it's going to commodify so much of the content that gets created, and then it's like, how are you still talking to the fans? And then it's like, well, if it's doing it really well, but it's like all the other tools you've now got. It's like, well, how can your staff get your messaging in? How can you tell the AI to be regional? Like all of those things. Like that's just, as the geek in me goes, wow, what could we do? But then it's like, how far do you pull back the lever and let it run is going to be interesting to see how it goes. But we've all got a project. Oh, we've got to write that email journey for this new fan. It's like, well, if I can go to a bot and it can write 80% of it, and I'm tweaking it, like it's those kind of like, I guess the easy steps.
That's what's exciting about it, though.
Yeah.
Well, because so much of what we do is tedious, and I think a lot of people, especially on the social side, don't realize that like 10% of what you do is the actual posting. The 90 other percent of that is like the planning, the posting, the administrative, the BS, everything else that's going along with it that people don't really see behind the scenes. And if there's a way to minimize a lot of that process, it's more time for innovation, more time for, okay, how can we change these email journeys? And how can we approach things differently? How could we could go wider with some of our marketing campaigns, and we can do more. And if that's the case and it allows for that, well, it could be really good for everybody. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Like anything, it's you dip your toe in and you see what other people do, and if their toe gets bitten off, maybe you don't have to go in, or if the water's nice, then maybe you swim. But we'll see how it shakes out. Should be interesting though.
It should be. And again, it's sort of like, can AI solve X problem? And it's just like, the metrics problems, like, oh, here's all our data, tell us the important stuff. And if that kind of, whether that starts to evolving, which it should, but it's all about, do you feed the right data to the AI so it learns? I did want to touch on before we finish. You've got an outdoor game coming up. How do you tackle that from a marketing point of view, from a leads point of view? It's obviously a big opportunity, tentpole event. What are some of the plans around the outdoor game?
Yeah, we're excited about that. This was originally announced like 2-3 years ago, and then kind of got pushed back because of the pandemic. But now,
I wonder why it's been delayed. Yeah,
I know, right? We even gave it an extra year just for things to like die down. So it's been many years in the making, and it's been astounding because it's sold out faster and more tickets than any other outdoor hockey game in NHL history. So a lot of people would say like, hey, hockey isn't going to exist or going to last or engage in a market like North Carolina. And I think our fans have really shown that they're passionate about it. So we got a lot of stuff going on between a fan fest in downtown Raleigh that we're hoping people from all over the region will show up to. It's going to be a big deal between drone shows and fireworks, and which are really big in the South, to a concert, Hootie and the Blowfish, who's obviously has local ties. So they'll be playing a show at PNC Arena. Then you got the game itself, all the tailgating stuff, which is a big part of our brand, given the fact that we share a parking lot with a college football stadium. And then the day after the game too, we got Carolina and NC State basketball at PNC Arena. So a lot of stuff going on. Our team is probably not going to sleep much that week, but we're so excited to in our 25th year in North Carolina, sort of celebrate the region and, show what we mean to North Carolina. So, we look at ourselves as North Carolina's team. The Panthers kind of got that stranglehold on two states, one team, and and the Hornets or Charlotte's team. We really view ourselves as North Carolina's team, and it's a great time to celebrate pro sports in the region. So we got to make sure our content is on point, and that we're engaging at a high level, and we're presenting things the right way, because it's going to be a heck of a celebration, and we better not lose that game. So I'll talk to coach and we'll see what we can shake out. But it's going to be pretty cool, and it's something that a lot of us in the organization from every department have been working really hard towards. So it should be a great show, and it's something that we hope can help the league grow, especially in our region.
And from a content and all your channels point of view, is it really just a matter of lifting and elevating what you do around that game, or is there are you going to do a specific content series or a mini movie, or is there something that's got a bit larger, that's a bit larger that you're also going to be tackling? Like you said, you can use the Australian Open's tagline that the digital team used there, sleepers for the week. You can just not sleep that week, but is there something bigger, planned around that outdoor game as well?
I think it's going to be a lot of strong jabs. Nothing that I think is going to occur throughout the process, but a lot of cinematic video, a lot of illustration to celebrate sort of the region and things that make North Carolina special, a lot of coverage stuff, a lot of creative photography, a lot of ways to sort of tell the story with a unique lens of kind of what's going on there. Because, it's going to be a long, long week. And we want to make sure we show, and we really archive it too. Just some of it. A lot's going on. So from the fan fest to the tailgating to the game itself to all the pageantry and college sports stuff that we're like folding into it, we want to make sure that we're telling a good story. And I do think that we'll be telling that longer form story when it's all said and done and we're through it. But even a couple of days before that game, we have our Hall of Fame game. We're inducting our first player ever to the Carolina Hurricanes Hall of Fame. So we really just love to, pile on the old plate there. So a lot of stuff will be going on, but we have to be mindful about, what is happening so we can tell the story the right way without completely burning out our crew, because a happy, healthy team is going to do a lot better work.
Yeah, but it is the sort of the case of capture everything, because we might, there's a really good opportunity to do a longer form piece or tell a different story if we've captured it. So it's sort of like everyone is on alert, but lifting, and then you're developing FOMO for everyone, because not everyone in Carolina can go to the game. It's like, well, we want you to feel like you can, or you were there, and you will be coming to the next one. So it is that sort of lead gen piece down the track.
Exactly right.
You did talk before that you do teach and at some colleges. What's your advice for sports grads who want to get into the world of sport?
Yeah, a couple things that I spend a couple weeks dealing with this with every class I teach, a whole segment on sort of career growth and networking. And the first thing is the unfortunate reality of working in sports is you don't get opportunities based on what you know. It is who you know. Experience does matter, but you're going to get referrals and interviews through building a network. And you don't want to overdo it. It's about building authentic and meaningful relationships. You don't want to be overly aggressive with that. And you don't want to ask for a job out of the gate, because that's a transactional relationship. You want to really build a meaningful relationship and communication with some people that inspire you. So I would urge anyone to look at their alumni database. If you are in college, if you didn't go to college, that's okay too. We hire a lot of people that didn't go to school. It shouldn't be a roadblock for anybody, but start reaching out to people that do inspire you with well-researched interview questions, and with the expectation you're not getting a job there, but maybe down the road it's someone that you could lean on for help. That's number one. Number two, right now, I know Twitter's sort of in a unique spot, but it is the most powerful marketing tool you can have for yourself for building relationships, for networking, or your personal brand. So that's Twitter plus LinkedIn are two platforms you can't really pass up on at all. So those two things combined are really valuable. You want to really just get as much experience as you possibly can. So if you are in college and you can work with the athletic department or the school newspaper, and you can build some experience that way, it's very valuable. Do some volunteer work. Maybe there's a wooden bat college baseball league in your town in the summer. Anything you can do to get something on your resume. I don't look at where people went to school. I don't even read the cover letters. I look at what relevant experience do you have, and did someone else recommend you that I trust? And if you have some of the skills and a good recommendation, and the culture fits right, we're going to give people a chance. And that's those are the things that really, really matter. It's building those authentic relationships and through networking. And I'm happy to share some tidbits on that offline, or some of the stuff I share with my students, because it is possible. There is a recipe for this stuff. It's just you got to go about it the right way.
Yep. And definitely I think also on that creative side is that, hey, start building your portfolio and start showing it, sharing your work, or, taking your own briefs or having your own spin. And so, but also developing your style and tone and the way you go about it. Instagram is full with, terrific sports creative people that are, building out their portfolio and making those network connections, just from Instagram. Dan, I really appreciate it. I want to get to the Sports Geek closing five. I'm here with Dan LaTorraca from the Hurricanes. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended?
I do. It was 1996. I was probably about 8 years old. It was the New York Yankees versus the Royals, and Darryl Strawberry hit his 300th career home run in like the 8th or 9th inning to win the game. Dwight Gooden pitched like 8 or 9 innings. And my dad took me, so I remember it like it was yesterday. And then the Yankees went on to win the World Series that year. But I do remember that one pretty fondly.
That would have been. I mean, and then you wouldn't have been calling out Daryl like the Simpsons episode. Where me and my mates loved any time there was a basketballer called Daryl, we would bring out the Darryl Strawberry chant every time. So
love that episode. But no, I think I was young enough to go to my first Yankees game, but too young for the Simpsons at that age. But that is one of my favorite episodes now, though.
You would have been to a lot of food, a lot of sports events and tried a lot of food. And we talk about digital getting upgraded over the past 20 years. Food has definitely been upgraded at sports events. Do you have a go-to food or a favorite food memory?
Yeah, when I was at the Nets, gosh, I ate so many of the barbecue chicken salads at Barclays Center just because it was right by the employee workroom, and they're actually pretty good. And I could trick myself into thinking I was eating healthy too, but it definitely wasn't. But it was at Barclays Center food. I tell you, that was probably one of the best food venues I've been to, sports wise.
Yeah,
so that's probably number one. But man, nothing better than a beer and a dog at a baseball game, though.
Definitely. What's the first app you open in the morning?
I wish this wasn't the case, but it is Twitter. And then followed shortly by email. I'm trying to open no apps in the morning, though.
It is a bit that way. Is there someone the podcast listeners should follow and why? It might be an author or a colleague or someone else that you admire that they should check out?
Oh, yeah, gosh. I guess on the marketing side, give some people on my staff a follow, whether it's Mike Foreman or Matt Suter or people on our digital or our marketing team. Highly recommend them. It's good people and they care about the brand a whole lot. I would say anybody on the Canes staff is a good follow.
Terrific. And lastly, you can answer this both from a Canes point of view and then your own point of view. What social media platform is your MVP?
It's Twitter and always has been. It's just built for sports, and it's yielded the biggest impact pound for pound. Every team I've worked at, from the Canes from a revenue standpoint to a brand identity standpoint, the Panthers, some of the stuff that I somehow got away with there, really couldn't happen on any other platform. So Twitter really is the MVP of the sports social scene. Although I think Instagram and TikTok are catching up pretty quick.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Dan, you talked about before about networking and reaching out to people. What's the best place for people to reach out to you on the internet?
Yeah, probably Twitter. My name is my handle, so that's an easy one. So you can get me there. I'm also on LinkedIn. I probably don't check it as much as I should, but I am on there. I'm really not on many other social platforms. So I always like to meet people. So feel free to have anybody reach out.
All right. Well, I will put the links to Dan LaTorraca's Twitter handle and LinkedIn. Please, if you reach out, tell him that you listen to the podcast. Tell him what part of the podcast you enjoyed the most. I really do appreciate when people do. Dan, thanks for coming on the podcast. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
Why not book a Pick My Brain session with Sean Callanan? Go to sportsgeekhq.com/pickmybrain.
Thanks again to Dan LaTorraca. You can find him on Twitter. Like myself, his name is his handle. But please reach out, send him a tweet, tell him that you listened to this episode, and comments and the like on LinkedIn. I really do appreciate it when the podcast listeners give feedback directly to the guests. Speaking of feedback, I would love some feedback on the updated, refreshed, new and improved Sports Geek News. I've updated it. I've updated my curation game. As I've sort of discussed, if you've been listening, a few of my curation tools fell by the wayside. Nuzzle was acquired by Twitter and completely made useless. But one tool that I've found recently is really helping me, one, find content, save content, know which content I'm going to share in Sports Geek News, is Raindrop. Raindrop.io it's a bookmarking tool. So if you were old school internet, if you remember a tool like Delicious that used to save links, I was an avid user of Delicious to save and curate all the things and sort of all the links that I would have open and try to save. Raindrop is really good at that. It has a tagging facility, has some folders. I've started plugging it in with if this, then that, to do a bit of automation. So it's helped me sort of, one, read more content, know what content's sort of trending and what content I want to share. And so the new format of the Sports Geek News, if you haven't opened it or you've never got it, I pretty much look at 5 to 6 articles and share the link, and then share my little insights, takes, my little notes on some of those articles, as well as you'll get the latest episode like this one from Dan. So you can sign up. You can go to sportsgeekhq.com/. That's all you have to do. Just go to the website. It's at the top. Put your email in. So you'll be joining over 4,000 sports biz executives that open and read that email. I'd really appreciate it if you do get the email and like the email. Please forward the next edition to a colleague. And I'd love your feedback on the new format if you like it. I was really pleased to go to Paul Greenberg's CRM happy hour and have a random person endorse the email there that I'd never met before. So that's always pretty cool. Before I jump off this, I just want to sort of talk about some of my adventures in AI at the moment. Actually, in the latest Sports Geek News, I just mentioned Ryan Reynolds writing a complete script for Mint Mobile and writing a video ad script in ChatGPT. I thought that was both funny and just another way I can be using it. And so when I started Sports Geek in 2009, I started with the philosophy of connecting teams, fans, and sponsors using technology. And that was pretty much, how can I use the right tools to build better websites, build better emails, and the whole social media digital explosion happened. And then in 2018 in Dallas at Seed, I set the goal, a personal goal, and I'd like it to be an industry goal, to see digital be the number one revenue in sports by 2030. And I think it's well on the way in the matter of what digital is driving. And I think this wave of AI technology, some of the stuff that's happening with the OpenAI, the team behind ChatGPT, and a few of the other ones around image creation, voice, use of voice and AI and voice technology, I think it's going to accelerate both of those philosophies and goals. So I'm really interested in playing around in the space. Lucky enough to be using some tools that are already in the world of sports that are leveraging parts of AI, but also going to be using it to help me create more content. But then also, how can we use AI to produce more content, better content, be more efficient as a sports digital team? That's what I want to look at. And so what I really want to know is it something that you're interested in? Because what I want to do is brainstorm some of the different use cases and problems that AI and the technology surrounding it can help solve. So I'm contemplating rebooting the Sports Biz Zoom and having a bit of a group discussion around the world of AI. If you're interested, I want to form a little bit of a Sports Geek working group around AI and share some of my thoughts around what I want to build and what I'm looking to build. So yeah, if you've got to this far in the podcast and you're interested in AI and you want to have a conversation about it, please reach out. I don't want it to have the conversation with everybody, but a small group of passionate people who want to see, build new tools, leverage the technology increase output, increase fan engagement, increase outreach to your fans, personalize what you're doing with your fans. There's some of the opportunities that I see. So send me an email, Sean@sportsgeekhq.com, or send me a DM on Twitter or a message in LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. Until next week, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Don't miss out on the latest news and updates from the sports industry. Sign up for the Sports Geek News email newsletter today and stay informed on the latest trends, insights, and analysis from the world of sports. Sign up at sportsgeekhq.com. Want to help drive more revenue from your digital efforts? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. For more resources, go to sportsgeekhq.com.